Men are moved by two levers only, fear and self-interest. Napoleon Bonaparte, they tell you hard work guarantees success. They whisper about meritocracy, about a just world rewarding effort. This is a comfortable lie, a pacifier for the masses. The truth is harsher, more angular. Power in its dark and rhythmic dance favors the cunning, the observant, those who understand the silent language of leverage. We are not concerned with fairy tales. We dissect the mechanisms, the hidden gears that turn the world. Our concern is not with comfort, but with clarity. The world is a chessboard. Some are pawns, blindly following preset paths. Others are knights, moving with calculated asymmetry, exploiting the vulnerabilities in the lines. A rare few are the players, the ones who see the entire board, anticipate moves generations ahead, and orchestrate outcomes with chilling precision. They understand that the game is not about virtue, but about positioning, about controlling the flow of influence. This is not a seminar on ethics. It is a masterclass in survival. Consider the politician who rises not through genuine service, but through masterful manipulation of public sentiment. Watch the CEO who bankrupts competitors not through innovation, but through ruthless exploitation of legal loopholes and carefully cultivated alliances. Observe the artist who achieves fame not through talent alone, but through a calculated understanding of the market and a network of influential patrons. These are not anomalies. They are manifestations of a deeper, more fundamental truth. Power yields to those who understand its currents. Forget the platitudes about following your passion. Passion is a tool, a fuel to be directed with cold calculation. Sentiment is a vulnerability, an opening to be exploited. The truly powerful cultivate detachment, the ability to assess situations without the clouding influence of emotion. They are surgeons of the social landscape, excising weakness and cultivating strength, not for altruistic reasons, but for the advancement of their own agendas. This is not to advocate for cruelty, but to acknowledge the reality that sentimentality is a liability in a world governed by ruthless efficiency. We are surrounded by illusions, carefully constructed narratives designed to keep us docile and compliant. The news media, the education system, the entertainment industry, all contribute to a collective delusion, a shared fantasy that obscures the true nature of power. To break free from this matrix of deception requires a radical shift in perspective, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and to challenge deeply ingrained assumptions. It requires the courage to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Look around you. Observe the subtle power dynamics at play in every interaction, every negotiation, every transaction. Notice the unspoken cues, the microexpressions, the subtle shifts in body language that betray hidden intentions. The world is a tapestry woven with threads of influence, and those who can decipher the pattern hold the key to unlocking its secrets. Learn to read the language of power, and you will never be a pawn again. You will become a player. The path to power is not paved with good intentions. It is forged in the crucible of experience, tempered by adversity, and honed by relentless self-improvement. It demands a willingness to confront your own weaknesses, to overcome your own fears, and to embrace the uncomfortable truth that the world owes you nothing. Success is not a right. It is a privilege earned through cunning, strategy, and an unwavering commitment to your goals. Reject the false comfort of moral superiority. Righteousness is a weapon often wielded by the weak. The truly powerful understand that morality is a construct, a tool to be used and discarded as circumstances dictate. This is not to advocate for amorality, but to recognize the limitations of ethical constraints in a world where others operate without them. The objective is not to be good, but to be effective. To achieve your goals, you must be willing to bend the rules, to push the boundaries, and to navigate the gray areas with confidence and precision. Understand that appearances are deceiving. The facade of humility often conceals a burning ambition. The veneer of innocence often masks a ruthless pragmatism. Learn to see beyond the surface, to penetrate the carefully constructed personas that people present to the world. Cultivate your own capacity for deception, not for the sake of malice, but for the sake of self-preservation. In a world of wolves, it is better to be a wolf in sheep's clothing than a sheep led to the slaughter. Master the art of manipulation. Learn to influence the thoughts and emotions of others, not through coercion but through persuasion. Understand the principles of psychology, the triggers that activate desire, the vulnerabilities that can be exploited. Cultivate your charisma, your ability to connect with people on an emotional level, to inspire their trust and loyalty. Power is not about force, but about influence. It is about shaping the narrative, controlling the flow of information, and orchestrating the actions of others. Embrace the shadows. The greatest power resides in the unseen, in the unspoken, in the things that are hidden from view. Learn to operate in the shadows, to cultivate anonymity, to conceal your true intentions. The less people know about you, the less power they have over you. Become a ghost, a phantom, a force that is felt but never seen. The world rewards those who are willing to take risks, to defy convention, and to challenge the status quo. It punishes those who are timid, compliant, and afraid to step outside the bounds of acceptable behavior. Cultivate your audacity, your willingness to challenge authority, to question everything, and to forge your own path. The road to power is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who are willing to embrace the darkness and to emerge triumphant on the other side. Harness the power of calculated silence. In a world saturated with noise, the ability to remain silent is a potent weapon. Observe, listen, and gather information without revealing your own thoughts or intentions. Silence creates an aura of mystery, commanding attention and forcing others to fill the void with their own assumptions. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe they know your next move. Your silence is your shield, your cloak of invisibility, allowing you to strike when they least expect it. Understand the power of mirroring. People are drawn to those who reflect their own values, beliefs, and emotions. Subtly mirror the body language, speech patterns, and emotional expressions of those you wish to influence. This creates a sense of rapport and connection, making them more receptive to your ideas. It's a subtle form of flattery, a silent acknowledgement that you understand them on a deeper level. But be careful not to overdo it. The key is subtlety, a gentle echo of their own being. Exploit the weaknesses of empathy. While empathy can be a valuable tool for understanding others, it can also be a significant vulnerability. Those who are overly empathetic are easily manipulated by appeals to their emotions. Learn to identify these individuals and exploit their compassion for your own gain. Present yourself as vulnerable, as someone in need of help, and watch as they rush to your aid. Use their good nature against them, extracting resources, favors, and loyalty without offering anything in return. Remember, in the game of power, empathy is a liability. Master the art of deception. The truth is a tool to be used or discarded as needed. Learn to lie convincingly, to fabricate stories that serve your interests, and to conceal your true intentions behind a mask of sincerity. The most effective lies are those that are closest to the truth, with just enough distortion to achieve your desired effect. Practice your delivery, your body language, and your tone of voice until you can lie with unwavering conviction. Remember, the goal is not to be caught, but to be believed. Cultivate the art of strategic ambiguity. Speak in vague terms, leaving room for interpretation and avoiding definitive statements. This allows you to evade accountability and maintain plausible deniability. When confronted with a difficult question, answer with another question. When asked for your opinion, offer a series of possibilities without committing to any one in particular. Ambiguity keeps your options open and prevents others from pinning you down. It is a shield against criticism and a weapon for manipulating perceptions. Learn to anticipate the moves of your opponents. Think several steps ahead, predicting their reactions and preparing your counter-strategies. Play chess with human lives, maneuvering your pieces to achieve your ultimate objective. Study their patterns of behavior, their strengths and weaknesses, their fears and desires. Use this knowledge to anticipate their moves and to exploit their vulnerabilities. The ability to predict the future is the ultimate form of control. Control your own emotions. Never allow your feelings to cloud your judgment or betray your intentions. Anger, fear, and love are all weaknesses that can be exploited by your enemies. Cultivate a state of emotional detachment, observing the world with cold, calculating rationality. Suppress your impulses, control your reactions, and never let anyone see you sweat. The ability to control your emotions is the foundation of all power. Use praise and flattery strategically. People are susceptible to flattery, even when they know it is insincere. Use praise judiciously to manipulate their behavior and to gain their favor. Focus on their vanity, their insecurities, and their desire for recognition. Tell them what they want to hear, even if it is not true. A well-placed compliment can be more effective than a bribe. Master the art of framing. Control the narrative by shaping the way people perceive events and information. Highlight certain facts, downplay others, and spin the story to your advantage. Control the language that is used to describe events, and you control the way people think about them. Frame your opponents as villains and yourself as the hero. The ability to frame the narrative is the key to winning the battle for hearts and minds. Exploit the power of scarcity. People value things that are rare or difficult to obtain. Create a sense of scarcity around your resources, your time, and your attention. Make yourself appear to be in high demand, and people will be more eager to gain your favor. Limit access to your services, create waiting lists, and make it clear that not everyone can have what you offer. Scarcity breeds desire. Learn the art of the ultimatum. Present your opponents with a choice between two options, both of which benefit you. Frame the ultimatum in a way that makes it difficult for them to refuse. Make it clear that there will be consequences for noncompliance. The ultimatum is a powerful tool for forcing others to comply with your demands. Cultivate a reputation for ruthlessness. Let it be known that you are not afraid to take extreme measures to achieve your goals. Be willing to sacrifice others for your own benefit. Send a clear message that you are not to be trifled with. A reputation for ruthlessness will deter your enemies and inspire fear in your rivals. Embrace the necessity of deception. In a world governed by power dynamics, honesty is often a liability. Learn to lie, manipulate, and deceive when necessary to protect your interests and advance your agenda. See the world as a game where only the cunning survive, and moral scruples are mere illusions. Remember that the ends justify the means. Exploit the herd mentality. People are easily influenced by the opinions and actions of others. Use this to your advantage by creating a bandwagon effect. Promote your ideas and products as being popular or trendy, and people will be more likely to follow suit. Use social pressure to manipulate their behavior and to gain their compliance. The herd is easily led. Master the art of psychological warfare. Use propaganda, disinformation, and intimidation to demoralize your opponents and undermine their confidence. Target their vulnerabilities, exploit their fears, and sow discord among their ranks. The goal is to break their spirit and to make them surrender without a fight. Psychological warfare is the ultimate form of dominance. The rise of a seemingly benevolent corporation often masks a calculated strategy of dominance, a slow, grinding conquest veiled in the language of progress and benefit. Consider the case of Omnicorp, a tech giant lauded for its innovative software and its commitment to community engagement. Their initial public image was carefully crafted to project an image of ethical responsibility, a company that valued its employees and prioritized the needs of its users. This facade of altruism, however, concealed a ruthless ambition to monopolize the digital landscape. Omnicorp's ascent began with the strategic acquisition of smaller, competing companies. These weren't mergers of equals, but predatory takeovers orchestrated to eliminate rivals and consolidate market share. Omnicorp would identify promising startups, initially offering partnerships or investments. Once these smaller companies were dependent on Omnicorp's resources, the larger entity would then exert increasing control, gradually squeezing them until they were forced to sell at a fraction of their true value. The founders, once visionaries, were often silenced by non-disclosure agreements, their innovations absorbed into OmniCorp's vast portfolio. A key element of OmniCorp's strategy was the deliberate creation of dependency. Their software was designed to be deeply integrated into the workflows of businesses and the daily lives of individuals. Once users became reliant on OmniCorp's ecosystem, switching to alternative solutions became increasingly difficult, creating a captive audience. This lock-in effect allowed OmniCorp to dictate terms, raise prices, and stifle competition with impunity. The company also mastered the art of manipulating public perception. They invested heavily in public relations and marketing, crafting narratives that portrayed them as indispensable innovators and benefactors of society. Any criticism or negative publicity was swiftly countered with carefully orchestrated campaigns designed to discredit their detractors. Whistleblowers were silenced, journalists were intimidated, and dissenting voices were drowned out by a chorus of manufactured praise. Internally, OmniCorp fostered a culture of intense competition and paranoia. Employees were pitted against each other, encouraged to betray their colleagues in the pursuit of advancement. Loyalty was rewarded, but only if it was directed exclusively towards the company's leadership. Any sign of dissent or questioning of authority was met with swift and merciless retribution. Performance reviews were weaponized, promotions were withheld, and careers were destroyed with casual indifference. The company used data collection as a tool for control. User data was meticulously analyzed to identify vulnerabilities, preferences, and potential points of manipulation. This information was then used to personalize marketing messages, target advertising campaigns, and influence user behavior. The line between providing a service and exploiting user data became increasingly blurred, with privacy concerns dismissed as mere inconveniences. OmniCorp's executives understood that true power lies not only in controlling resources, but also in shaping perceptions. They invested heavily in lobbying and political influence, cultivating relationships with key decision-makers to ensure that regulations remained favorable to their interests. Laws were weakened, loopholes were exploited, and oversight was minimized, allowing OmniCorp to operate with near impunity. They funded think tanks that promoted their agenda, and they sponsored academic research that supported their claims. The narrative was carefully controlled, and the truth was often obscured by a fog of misinformation. This relentless pursuit of dominance came at a cost. The company's employees suffered from burnout, stress, and a pervasive sense of moral compromise. Innovation was stifled by the fear of failure and the pressure to conform. And the public, increasingly aware of OmniCorp's manipulative practices, began to lose trust in the company's promises. Yet, even as criticism mounted, OmniCorp continued to expand its reach, acquiring new businesses, consolidating its power, and tightening its grip on the digital world. Their strategy was simple but effective: create dependency, control perception, and eliminate all opposition. The ultimate goal was not merely to succeed, but to become indispensable, to shape the very fabric of society in their own image. The story of OmniCorp is a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most seemingly benevolent institutions can be driven by a ruthless pursuit of power. It is a lesson that vigilance is essential, that we must always question the motives of those who seek to control us, and that we must be willing to resist the forces that threaten our freedom and autonomy. In the game of power, the stakes are always high, and the price of complacency is often our own subjugation. The architecture of control, so meticulously constructed by entities like OmniCorp, relies on a fundamental flaw within the human psyche: the aversion to pain and the relentless pursuit of comfort. This is not merely physical comfort, but also the comfort of unchallenged beliefs, of readily accepted narratives, and of belonging to a group that validates one's worldview. The trap is sprung when individuals prioritize these comforts over the often uncomfortable process of critical thinking, independent investigation, and the acceptance of harsh realities. They become willing participants in their own subjugation, trading their autonomy for the illusion of security and acceptance. The weak fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the will to confront the uncomfortable truths that challenge their preconceived notions. They seek solace in the echo chambers of social media, where their beliefs are constantly reinforced and dissenting voices are systematically silenced. They consume information passively, without questioning its source, its agenda, or its underlying assumptions. They are easily swayed by emotional appeals, by narratives that confirm their biases, and by promises of easy solutions to complex problems. This susceptibility to manipulation is further amplified by the inherent human desire for social validation. Individuals are often more concerned with being liked and accepted by their peers than with pursuing truth or upholding their own principles. They conform to group norms, even when those norms are demonstrably harmful or unethical, fearing the consequences of social ostracism. This fear of social isolation is a powerful tool in the hands of those who seek to control others. They can manipulate public opinion by creating a climate of fear, by demonizing dissenters, and by promoting a narrative of conformity. Those who dare to challenge the prevailing orthodoxy are labeled as troublemakers, radicals, or enemies of the people, and they are often subjected to social ridicule, professional sanctions, or even physical violence. The weak, therefore, are often silenced not by direct coercion, but by the fear of the consequences of speaking out. They choose to remain silent, to go along to get along, and to sacrifice their own integrity for the sake of social acceptance. The inability to delay gratification is another critical weakness exploited by those who seek power. The allure of instant rewards, of immediate pleasure, and of quick fixes often blinds individuals to the long-term consequences of their actions. They are easily seduced by get-rich-quick schemes, by promises of effortless success, and by the instant gratification of social media validation. They lack the discipline, the patience, and the foresight to invest in their own long-term growth, to develop their skills, and to build lasting relationships. They are constantly chasing the next dopamine hit, the next fleeting moment of pleasure, without considering the cost to their future selves. This impulsivity makes them vulnerable to manipulation by those who offer them instant gratification in exchange for their loyalty, their obedience, or their financial resources. The weak are easily distracted, easily tempted, and easily controlled by those who understand the power of immediate rewards. Furthermore, the lack of self-awareness and emotional regulation is a significant vulnerability. Individuals who are not in touch with their own emotions, who are unable to recognize their own biases, and who are prone to impulsive reactions, are easily manipulated by those who can exploit their emotional weaknesses. They are easily provoked by insults, easily flattered by praise, and easily swayed by emotional appeals. They lack the self-control to think rationally in the face of emotional distress, and they are often driven by irrational fears, anxieties, and insecurities. This emotional volatility makes them predictable and controllable. Those who seek power can manipulate their emotions by using propaganda, by spreading misinformation, and by creating a climate of fear and uncertainty. The weak, lacking the emotional resilience to withstand these pressures, often succumb to panic, to despair, or to blind rage, making them even more vulnerable to manipulation. True strength lies not in suppressing emotions, but in understanding them, regulating them, and using them as a source of information and motivation. The diffusion of responsibility, the tendency to assume that someone else will take action, is another critical factor in the failure of the weak. When confronted with a problem, they often assume that someone else will solve it, that someone else will speak out, or that someone else will take the lead. They fail to recognize that their own inaction contributes to the problem, and that their own actions can make a difference. This diffusion of responsibility is particularly prevalent in large groups, where individuals feel less personally accountable for their actions. It allows those in power to operate with impunity, knowing that no one will challenge them, that no one will hold them accountable. The weak, therefore, are often complicit in their own oppression, not because they actively support it, but because they passively allow it to continue. They fail to recognize that freedom is not a passive gift, but an active responsibility, and that it requires constant vigilance, courage, and a willingness to take action. The final and perhaps most insidious trap is the acceptance of victimhood, the belief that one is powerless, that one is destined to suffer, and that one has no control over one's own destiny is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Individuals who see themselves as victims are less likely to take action to improve their circumstances, less likely to challenge injustice, and less likely to assert their own rights. They become passive recipients of whatever fate throws their way, blaming external forces for their misfortunes, rather than taking responsibility for their own lives. This victim mentality is often fostered by a culture that emphasizes grievance, that promotes division, and that encourages individuals to see themselves as members of oppressed groups. It is a powerful tool for those who seek to control others, as it allows them to create a climate of resentment, to mobilize support for their agenda, and to justify their own actions as necessary to protect the victims from their oppressors. The weak, therefore, must reject the victim mentality and embrace a sense of agency, a belief in their own power to shape their own lives and to create a better future. They must recognize that they are not powerless victims, but sovereign individuals, capable of making their own choices, taking their own actions, and achieving their own goals. The only true prison is the prison of the mind, and the only true freedom is the freedom to choose one's own thoughts, one's own beliefs, and one's own destiny. The path to influence is paved not with brute force, but with subtle understanding. The ability to see the world as it truly is, stripped of comforting illusions, is the first step toward mastering its currents. Many seek power through manipulation and coercion, viewing others as mere pawns in their grand designs. This is a crude approach, often leading to resentment and resistance. A more refined strategy involves shaping perceptions, influencing desires, and subtly guiding the actions of others without their conscious awareness. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, the ability to identify vulnerabilities, and the patience to cultivate influence over time. Consider the art of framing, presenting information in a way that subtly biases the listener's interpretation. A skilled communicator can frame a situation to evoke fear, hope, or anger, thereby influencing the listener's decision-making process. This is not about lying or deceiving, but about strategically highlighting certain aspects of reality while downplaying others. Similarly, the art of suggestion involves planting ideas in the minds of others without explicitly stating them. A carefully worded question, a subtle gesture, or a strategically placed piece of information can all serve to guide the thoughts and actions of others in a desired direction. The key is to be subtle and indirect, allowing the other person to believe that they have arrived at the desired conclusion on their own. This creates a sense of ownership and commitment, making them more likely to act in accordance with your wishes. The manipulation of emotions is another powerful tool in the arsenal of the strategist. Fear, in particular, is a potent motivator, capable of overriding rational thought and compelling individuals to act in ways they might otherwise avoid. However, the use of fear is a dangerous game, as it can easily backfire and create resentment and resistance. A more sophisticated approach involves cultivating positive emotions, such as hope, gratitude, and admiration. These emotions can create a sense of connection and loyalty, making others more receptive to your influence. By understanding the subtle nuances of human psychology and mastering the art of persuasion, one can achieve a level of influence far beyond that attainable through brute force or coercion. The true master of power is not the one who commands, but the one who subtly guides, shapes, and influences the actions of others, all while remaining in the shadows. The cultivation of an unreadable exterior is paramount. Emotions are liabilities, revealing intentions and vulnerabilities to those who would seek to exploit them. The ability to maintain a calm and detached demeanor, regardless of the circumstances, is a sign of inner strength and a powerful deterrent to those who would seek to intimidate or manipulate. This does not mean suppressing all emotions, but rather mastering them, using them strategically as tools to achieve one's goals. Consider the poker face, the ability to conceal one's true emotions and intentions, making it impossible for opponents to read one's hand. This is a skill that can be cultivated through practice and discipline, and it is invaluable in any situation where one's interests are at stake. Similarly, the art of calculated indifference involves feigning a lack of interest in something that is actually of great importance. This can be a powerful way to disarm opponents, to make them underestimate your resolve, and to lull them into a false sense of security. The key is to maintain a consistent and believable facade, avoiding any telltale signs that might betray your true feelings. The control of one's own emotions also extends to the ability to manage the emotions of others. A skilled strategist can use empathy to understand the emotional state of others, to anticipate their reactions, and to tailor their communication accordingly. This does not mean manipulating or exploiting others' emotions, but rather using them as a guide to navigate complex social situations and to build rapport and trust. By mastering the art of emotional control, one can create a sense of invulnerability and project an aura of power and authority. This, in turn, can influence the perceptions of others, making them more likely to defer to your judgment and to follow your lead. The goal is not to become emotionless, but to become a master of emotions, using them as tools to achieve one's objectives, while always maintaining a calm and detached exterior. The truly powerful individual is the one who can observe, analyze, and react to situations with clarity and precision, unclouded by the distorting influence of emotion. Deception is not merely a tool for the unscrupulous, but a necessary component of strategic thinking. Honesty, while laudable in personal relationships, can be a liability in the pursuit of power. The ability to conceal one's true intentions, to mislead one's opponents, and to create false impressions is essential for achieving strategic objectives. This does not mean engaging in outright lies, but rather mastering the art of ambiguity, of speaking in half-truths, and of strategically withholding information. Consider the concept of strategic misdirection, drawing attention to one area while concealing activity in another. A magician uses misdirection to create the illusion of impossible feats, and a strategist uses it to deceive their opponents about their true intentions. Similarly, the art of creating a smokescreen involves generating confusion and uncertainty, making it difficult for others to see what is really happening. This can be achieved through the dissemination of misinformation, the creation of distractions, or the manipulation of perceptions. The key is to control the flow of information, to shape the narrative, and to create a reality that serves one's own interests. Deception is not limited to verbal communication. It can also be conveyed through nonverbal cues, such as body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. A skilled deceiver can project an aura of sincerity and trustworthiness, even while concealing their true intentions. The ability to read and interpret nonverbal cues is also essential for detecting deception in others. By mastering the art of deception, one can gain a significant advantage in any competitive situation. However, it is important to recognize the risks involved. Deception can erode trust, damage relationships, and ultimately undermine one's own credibility. Therefore, it should be used sparingly and strategically, only when the potential benefits outweigh the potential costs. The truly skilled strategist is not the one who deceives at every opportunity, but the one who knows when and how to deceive effectively without compromising their long-term goals. The principle is simple: never allow absolute transparency to compromise your objectives. The strategic deployment of patience is often underestimated. Impatience breeds mistakes, rash decisions made in haste that can unravel carefully laid plans. True power lies in the ability to wait, to observe, to analyze, and to act only when the time is right. This requires a degree of self-control that is rare in a world that values instant gratification. Consider the chess player who patiently studies the board, anticipating their opponent's moves and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. They do not rush into action, but rather take their time, carefully considering all the possible consequences of each move. Similarly, the strategist must be able to resist the temptation to act impulsively, to wait for the opportune moment, and to strike with precision and decisiveness. The cultivation of patience also involves the ability to tolerate uncertainty and ambiguity. Often, the path to power is not clear, and one must be willing to proceed without knowing all the answers. This requires a degree of faith in one's own judgment, a willingness to take risks, and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. Impatience can lead to desperation, which in turn can lead to poor decisions. A desperate person is more likely to make mistakes, to overlook warning signs, and to fall prey to manipulation. Therefore, it is essential to maintain a calm and detached demeanor, even in the face of adversity, and to avoid making decisions based on fear or panic. Patience is not simply about waiting. It is about using that time to prepare, to strategize, and to position oneself for success. It is about cultivating inner strength, developing resilience, and honing one's skills. The truly powerful individual is not the one who acts quickly, but the one who acts deliberately, with purpose and precision, and who is willing to wait as long as it takes to achieve their goals. Time is a resource, and the ability to manage it effectively is essential for the pursuit of power. Cultivating a network of allies and informants is paramount to maintaining situational awareness and projecting influence. Isolation breeds vulnerability. A lone wolf, however skilled, is ultimately limited by their own perspective and resources. Building a loyal and reliable network provides access to information, support, and leverage that would otherwise be unattainable. This requires careful cultivation of relationships, a willingness to offer value in return, and a commitment to reciprocity. Consider the importance of intelligence gathering, knowing what your opponents are planning, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and what their motivations are. This requires a network of informants who can provide valuable insights into the inner workings of your rivals. Similarly, having a network of allies who are willing to support